Guatemala, where I'm from, so I'm very proud of it. And Don Julio Tequila, so please, Roberto.
Right here, everybody can hear me okay? How you guys doing? I know I'm a little short, so not all of you can see me. But I want to actually thank all of you for having me here today. A lot like Mr. Gutierrez here, and I wanted to thank also Giovanni for having me. A lot like Luis, we actually share passions. My passion is actually in the spirits industry, and I enjoy a lot of different types of booze, let's say. But among them, because we are Latinos a morir, I figured we introduce a couple of products that are very Latino and dear to us. We have a Mexican product here today called tequila, and I don't want to bore everybody. I probably won't take too long. I'm just going to give you a little history on tequila. As we know, is Mexicano, can only be made in Mexico, and it primarily comes from one state called Jalisco. So to make tequila, you primarily come from this one region. About 97–90% of all tequila comes from. Tequila Don Julio is actually from that region. To be something to also be proud of is the fact that tequila itself was actually the most expensive spirit in the world to produce. Nobody else has that claim. We also have really strict laws to make tequila, and we give them to ourselves. But, well, these guys are ready to drink, I think. We have really strict laws. I mean, cognac also has really strict laws, and we all know that via cognac, but actually tequila has some stricter parts. We have a little bit more play is actually where we get to age the wood, which I'll get to a little bit later. But I like to explain spirits generally, a lot like wine. Everybody understands wine. Climate, altitude, soil, humidity, all these things play a part in what the grape varietal tastes like. And from that to the fermentation process to the bottle. Spirits are exactly the same way, which is why we have such diversity in spirits. Everybody knows whiskeys. We have whiskeys from all over the world, Scotch whiskeys, Irish whiskeys, such like that. Well, spirits also we have very Latino spirits, because we are Latin to die, till the death. We brought a little tequila here for you today. And just a little brief overview on tequila without boring you, and I can get very technical and talk forever. I had some actually very interested people today and asked me some great questions. So we'll go over essentially the different expressions of the spirits themselves. Tequila blanco is typically unaged. There are some expressions of some aged tequilas, not too many of them, but typically unaged and straight out of the still. It'll usually be clear in color, and that's what we have here today. So this actually comes from a highland region. So again, remember I mentioned a little bit of soil and altitude and humidity, all those things play a part. The blanco tequila will typically from the highlands have a bit of a spice with a fruit bouquet. This particular one has a bit of a grassy note, so it's a lot of fun, and pairs really well with actually the strawberries that are here today, if you want to do that a little bit later too. The reposado category, reposado in Spanish means rested. So essentially what that means is we rest the tequila for a little while in an oak cask. So our reposado, a few of you are familiar with already. Reposado tequila is, this is actually aged 8 months to be a repo with a few other laws, as long as you play by the rules, typically between 2 months to about a year. So anytime within that, you have a reposado tequila. And then above that, the añejo category, which a lot of you were enjoying today, is anything over a year. Again, you play by the rules and you follow the laws. Anything over a year is typically a tequila. I'm sorry, it's not only a tequila, but a tequila añejo. But what I'm really impressed with today is not the fact that a lot of you already know the brand of Don Julio, and a few of you have consumed it, but the interest in the rum that I brought today. So everybody's really enjoyed it and sort of almost graduated from tequila to the rum, and not a lot of you have already been familiar with the rum before, but this is actually a rum from Guatemala. Woo! We have a couple people here from Guatemala, if you heard them. This particular rum is, so rum, again, like all spirits and all wines, everything plays a part, from the soil and altitude and all those things, humidity. This particular rum is rum that comes out of a distillery in Guatemala. Guatemala is not known for making a lot of rum. They're known for other things, among them like coffee, for instance. But this particular company decided, hey, let's make a rum the best we possibly can. Let's put a lot of pride and TLC into this and put ourselves on the map. And that's what they did. So we know rums typically come from a molasses base. Does everybody know what molasses is? It's a byproduct of sugarcane. So essentially 250 years ago when we discovered using molasses to ferment. Fermentation is a process where the yeast eats the sugars that turn those things into alcohol, essentially. And what we do is we take those and we actually turn it into an alcoholic beverage. So 250 years ago, actually, the slaves discovered fermenting using the byproduct of sugarcane, which was used by the Europeans. That they discovered it. They came and started producing sugar and using the fibers and such for feed or for clothing or for other things. And what was left behind is this kind of black tarry substance. Well, the slaves actually learned if they let that sit and ferment, they started making an alcoholic beverage, and that's what they would do late at night after hard days work. And then Europeans caught on later on, and they said, well, let's introduce our technology of distillation. So they took distilling the molasses and turned it into rum, and that's where rum was created. So it's traditionally made with molasses. So what these people were thinking, well, what if we take, instead of actually using the byproduct of sugarcane, what if we actually use the sugarcane juice to produce a rum? Would that be good? Probably, right? So they actually take the sugarcane juice, and not that that's rare, because there's a few other companies that do that, but taking that sugarcane juice and pulling out as much water as possible, which is called reduction, you're getting a richer substance, a lot more viscous, a lot like honey, and they actually call that sugarcane honey. So they take that to yield as much possible sugar as possible to give you the best possible rum, right? So the more sugar you have, the more the yeast has to eat the sugars and actually turn those things into alcohol and to yield you the best possible alcohol from that sugarcane base. Well, when you're playing with yeasts, and I don't want to get too technical, but I just think this is fun, you need a yeast that actually can absorb and be able to consume as much of that sugar as possible, something that's used to working against that kind of sugar. We use a pineapple yeast, no big secret. Pineapple yeast to eat the really condensed sugarcane juice that we actually use the distillation. So again, like I mentioned, this is actually just the product that they put a little extra TLC into. That's an example of what they do there. But a lot of you were really enjoying this and actually asking me a little bit more about the flavor profiles. Well, with rum, rum is actually the least expensive spirit in the world to produce when you use a molasses base, obviously, and then there's other things that you typically do. The laws for rum aren't as strict as they are with, say, tequila. A lot more freedom, but when you give yourself the rules and you give yourself a little bit of pride, like the Guatemaltecos do for this particular brand, they don't want to add any extra sugars or caramels to it, which is completely legal in rum. You can add sugars and add caramel coloring, and then this is going to give you consistency within the bottles, but obviously there's pride here. They spend a lot of time on this guy. Separate fermentation tank, separate still for this particular brand, Zacapa. So what really gets interesting, and I swear I'm done here, is they take the rum out of the still and they actually use it into used whiskey barrels, used American whiskey barrels. So what happens there is the whiskey barrels, American whiskey, can only use those barrels one time. It's the law in the US that you can only use the barrels one time. It has to be white American oak. So actually spirits from all over the world take advantage of that because there's a lot of great wood still in that barrel. But the whiskey sort of seasons it, if you will. So it actually pulls out the harsher, more aggressive woody notes and leaves behind the softer woody notes, which give you a lot more of that vanilla caramel that you're actually getting in that ron Zacapa that you actually all tasted. And on top of that, so we introduce our rum into that particular barrel, absorb as much of that wood as possible. We only use it one time because what happens is we pull it out after 3 years, blend it all together, and this is their model of what they learned from the Spanish Solera system. I'll explain that later if you guys want. But this is the racking system that they use in the aging system. So after 3 years, pull it all out, blend it all together, and then add in older rums. So instead of coloring and adding sugars and caramels and caramel colors for consistency, they're adding older rums back into the rum, rums of up to 23 years, actually, for this particular brand. After that, so blend it all out, put it back into the used American oak casks, the used whiskey casks. But not before they sand them down inside, get them fresh, and then rechar them. Then they put the rum back in. Now that's where you're getting that smoky note, if you actually got that. So you get that heavy vanilla caramel, you get a little bit of smoke there, right? But not too much smoke because they pull it out after a year. Again, blend it all together, the entire process, pulling it out of the barrels, blending it all together, adding the old rums of up to 23 years, and then reintroducing it to new oak. So the third oak, actually, in the list, after they pull it out of the used, recharred American oak cask, is a used sherry barrel. Now, a lot of you probably have sherry. If not, flavor profile of sherry tends to be a little dry and floral, right? So when actually we introduce that flavor profile to the rum, it's giving it that dry floral note. So now you got richer notes like the caramels and the vanillas. You get a little bit of smoke, and now you're kind of drying it out with a nice floral note. So again, pulling it all out, blending it all together, and adding the older rums of up to 23 years. Final barrel for this particular rum is a used Pedro Jimenez cask. Now, Pedro Jimenez, not a lot of people are familiar with. It's a Spanish brand of fortified wine. Fortified wine essentially is a wine that you introduce a little bit of alcohol into, typically a brandy base or a grape base, to help maintain that wine, to preserve it, right? Alcohol helps preserve things. So, but this particular brand is not only a style of fortified wine, but it's actually a grape varietal where they actually let the grape actually sit out in the sun and wilt a little bit. So what you're doing there is, again, you're evaporating the water from the actual grape as much as possible. It's still going to be kind of slimy, kind of like an old grape, but all the sugars are still there. So they take that, and actually that's what they take and mash together and make their fortified wine. Now we take those barrels from them, put our rum in it, final barrel, let it soak it up. What's happening there, you're introducing all that body consistency, and you're giving it, kind of rounding it out, and a little bit of currant now. Does everybody get that? You guys, I know you guys are probably going to come and try this later on, but again, I don't want to take any more of anybody's time. I want to thank Luis for having me here today, and Giovanni for inviting me. But come have some drinks. I know I didn't want to take up too much time, but come and have some drinks with me. And feel free to ask me many more questions.
And thank you again for coming. We have